Well, good morning. Welcome to week 2 of our yoga series. And last week we were looking at the theme of letting go and the idea of working with the exhale as a metaphor for letting go and finding that kind of grounding within ourselves and making space for what's new for 2019. So I hope you had a chance to do that practice if you didn't get to do it live with us. Today, our theme is we're moving to sensation in the body and paying attention to the body and what's going on with it. So I want to talk about a few benefits to doing that and then a couple of warnings or cautions about that. So first of all, when we listen to our bodies, when we really pay attention to our bodies, we become better listeners. Right? We approach our body, if we approach our body with non-judgmental love and acceptance, and we simply notice what's there without judging or trying to change anything, we become a better friend to ourselves. And we, in the long run, ideally, the goal is to learn to love ourselves more through that process of simply noticing what's present without judgment. And that can be tough, right? We often want to judge things or change them when we notice them, especially in our bodies. So we become a better friend to ourselves when we listen to our bodies, and we can also tune into more subtle realms. And often we don't pay any attention to our bodies until they're screaming at us and they're really hurting, and then we may have a bigger problem on our hands than if we noticed something when it was small, and we could deal with it when it was small. So when we tune in, sometimes we go, "Oh, there's pain there that I didn't realize I had," right? And that can be a bit. It can be a bit alarming when we first realize that. So noticing what's going on and maybe noticing what we've ignored over time. So we can learn a bit more about ourselves that way as well. Another benefit of paying attention to our bodies is every sensation that's happening in our body is happening right now. Right? So we can't look at the sensations that we had yesterday and really look at them. We can remember as best we can, but we can't actually tune into our body in any moment except for this one. So it becomes a mindfulness practice as well. Just like following the breath can be a mindfulness practice, looking at sensation in the body can also be a mindfulness practice. And the fourth benefit, fourth that I'm going to talk about, there's probably lots and lots more, is that we can gain insight into our emotional state. So you may not be aware of it, but every single emotion that we have, whether it's happy, sad, angry, whatever it is, it has a manifestation in the body, right? And we use language like, I felt butterflies in my stomach, or I felt punched in the gut, or I felt my heart break. And it's because those emotions have physicality, they have sensation in the body. We're kind of trained to tune out and not notice that. But if we actually tune in and notice when we have especially a strong emotion, we can feel something usually in our body. And often it's just asking for attention. We don't need to do anything with the information. It's just giving it attention and being with ourselves through that process. So those are some of the benefits. Some of the cautions or warnings is that if you're not used to tuning into your body, it can be a bit overwhelming at times. If you have been ignoring things and suddenly you tune in and there's pain that you didn't realize that you had, or there's something else going on, or those sensations seem to take over your attention, then you may want to just kind of dip into feeling your body and then dip back out again. Right? Especially if you have some injury, illness, some issue that's really present and pressing for you, you might not stay tuned into the body the whole time. You might say, I'm going to tune in a little bit, feel what's there, feel a little overwhelmed. I'm going to tune into something else. And something else you can use that's in the present, in the now, certainly the breath that we worked with last week, but also sounds. Whatever you can hear around you, just tuning into the sounds. So sort of take it away from the body, bring it back to the body, take it away, bring it back if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the process. And also if there's pain, so you may have pain in your body that takes a lot of your attention, you don't feel much else except for the pain. If that's the case for you, I encourage you to notice the pain. It's there, it's present, but don't give it all your attention. Right? So notice it and then shift your attention to something else that you feel in your body. And I will remind you of that as we go through the class, to not dwell on the pain if it's there. Okay? That can create this obsessive loop in the mind and create a sense of worry or concern. So if there's pain, notice it, acknowledge it, and then try to send your attention elsewhere. And you might, again, dip in, dip out, feel it, notice it, and then move somewhere else. So keeping the mind from getting kind of on that one track towards that pain. So the practice today, focusing on the lower body, the legs and hips, kind of working in that area. And again, that's an area that can create or can expose some vulnerabilities. So please listen to your body. And if you feel overwhelmed, just stop what you're doing, maybe give yourself a hug, bring your knees to your chest, or whatever needs to happen to come back to a sense of being grounded before you move on. Things you might find helpful today are blocks or cushions to support your knees in an open position when we're lying down. You might also want a blanket to sit on for the seated poses, and a belt. And I've stolen my belt here from my bathrobe. So any belt will do. It could be a tie, anything like that. So you want to find, and you don't need those things. I'll give you alternatives to do it without any of the props at all. You might find it helpful to have some of those things. Okay, so we will get started, and we're going to start lying down today. So we'll do a little bit of centering lying down, and then we'll get into some movements. So you can start lying down on your mat when you're ready. Find a comfortable position. You can have your legs bent or straight, whatever feels best for your low back. If you like, you can close your eyes. It's always an option to keep your eyes open, if that's more comfortable for you. But if you keep your eyes open, try to keep your gaze from wandering around. Try to keep a soft focus in one area to keep your gaze, to keep your attention in one spot. So as you come to lie down, notice the feeling of your body against the ground. You might come back to last week's theme of exhale and letting go, and take a few breaths where you float down into the earth. You exhale and let go. Feel your body soften a little bit. And then notice the sensations in your body where it meets the ground. And one other thing I wanted to say about sensation is it's very normal, very common to feel no sensation whatsoever in parts of the body, or even at times in the whole body, to feel kind of numb or tuned out. And if that's the case for you, again, don't create concern around that. Simply notice, oh, I don't feel much right now, and take your attention elsewhere, maybe to sound or breath. So notice what you do feel. Can you feel the ground beneath you? Can you allow your body to soften into that support? Feel the ground support and hold you. Notice any sensations that may be present, the sensation of pressure on the ground. Maybe notice if you're feeling warm or cool this morning. It's quite cold outside, sunny, but the weather app says it's 20 or something. So notice how your body feels. Got the wood stove warming my back right now, so I'm aware of that, and then the cooler air on the front of the body. So notice that sort of temperature. Maybe there's some air on your skin you can notice. So tuning in for a moment, checking in with your body, using this as a bit of a mindfulness practice. Bring your attention to this moment. Let's take a moment to notice what is most obvious in your body. What is the most obvious sensation? And again, that could be pain taking your attention. It could be something else. So touch on that. What feels obvious, alive, awake in your body in terms of sensation? And then see if you can tune into what's more subtle. What is present but not quite as dominant in your awareness of your sensation in your body? Keep tuning in to see what's more and more subtle. Take a few more breaths here. And then let your breath deepen a little bit. Take a few nice, full, deep breaths. Feel yourself inviting a little more energy into the body with your breath. Inhale wakes up the nervous system and just a little more energy. So taking a few deeper breaths. And then with your body on the mat, if you have your legs straight, you can go ahead and bend your knees and bring your feet to the floor. Let's take both knees and bring them in toward the chest. You can take one hand onto each knee. And start with straight arms and take a breath in. And then as you exhale, draw your knees in toward your chest. And then as you inhale, move the knees away. Now you can do this with the coordinating with the breath, or you can simply move the knees in a time that suits you and breathe normally. So as you do this, try with everything that we do today, to not do this in a mindless or in a way that's mechanical. To really feel and notice. What do you feel in the front of your hips as the knees come towards your chest? What do you feel in the back of the hips as the pressure shifts on the ground? You might try making some circles with your knees and seeing how that changes the sensation that you experience between your body and the ground. Let's bring the knees into the chest, and we'll do some independent circles with the knees. So knees moving apart toward the sides of the chest, and then you can straighten your arms, move the knees away, bring them back together, and back in towards your body. So knees move away, and here don't really worry about your breath. Do breathe, of course. Don't worry about the breath being in a certain pattern. So allow those circles to move at a pace that feels comfortable. And then at some point, reverse your circles. So you'll start in the center, move the knees away through the center, separate the knees, and draw them around and back in towards your body. A few more in that direction. That's how things may have changed when you change direction. And then you can bring the knees into the chest, give yourself a little hug. If you feel like your head tilts back here, you might want to tuck a blanket under your head to support it in a more neutral position for your neck. As you're ready, let's bring the left foot to the floor, and we'll keep the right knee in toward the chest. So we'll work a little bit with this right side, the joints of the right leg, the hip, knee, and ankle. So you can take your hands behind your thigh if you like here, or even let the hands come to the floor, rest on your body. And we'll bend and straighten this leg. So reaching it toward the ceiling and bending it toward the chest. So again, hands can be on the leg or away from the leg. So notice when you start to feel the sensation of stretch as the leg raises toward the ceiling, and then notice how it feels in the hip joint as you hug the knee in toward the chest. And then with the legs stretched up toward the ceiling, and again, it could be hands on the leg, could be hands on the body or the ground. Let's circle the ankle. And try circling slowly so you can really tune into the sensations. What do you notice? Where does the stretch go? How does it change as you do this? One way and then the other. Then you can relax your foot and give that leg a shake. Do one more stretch on this side for now, taking the ankle across the opposite thigh. And this might be enough stretch for you right here. You might take your right hand and gently press that thigh away for a little bit more stretch. And if that feels like a good stretch for you and you want to stay here, that's fine. And how do we know if it's a good stretch? So right now, looking for just a mild stretch, nothing too intense as we warm up. If you want more stretch, bringing the legs toward the body is the way to get that. So you can either take one of your blocks, and if you have one, and place it underneath the foot, the left foot. So that brings the knees a little closer. You could use your belt or your hands if you want more stretch to reach behind your left thigh. So finding a position that works for you, and you really want to check in with this right knee. If you're feeling pain, tugging, discomfort in the right knee, you're much better off just to come back to something like this with the knee in toward the chest, maybe even a little movement. Let's take one more breath here. And then as you're ready, you'll release the legs to the floor. And before we move to the other side, let's take both legs, stretch them straight out on the ground, and let the arms rest on the ground and let the feet fall out to the sides. And if it's not comfortable to have your legs straight, bent legs is completely fine here as well. And take a moment to tune in and notice, what do you feel on the right side, the right hip, which we've done some work with, the right knee, the right ankle, and compare that to how the left side feels. Try not to make any judgments or have expectations about what you should feel. There may be a difference between the two sides, there may not. That really depends on a few things. How your body feels today, and it can depend on the subtlety. Sometimes the differences are so subtle that are hard to discern. When you're ready, you can bend both knees again. And we'll bring the left knee in toward the chest. And you can hug that knee in, either holding on over the shin or behind the thigh. We'll take a few breaths here, noticing hip, the inner part of the hip flexors at the front, and then around the back of the hip. And then again, we'll bend and straighten this leg. So by straighten, I don't mean it has to be fully straight, just until you start to feel a stretch, and then bend the leg. So if you think of the stretch as being, 1 is very little or almost no stretch, 10 is the absolute maximum you can manage. Find a 3 or a 4. So warm up these big muscles, the hamstrings and the back of the legs. At some point, leaving the leg in the air. If that's comfortable for you, you can always do the circles for your ankle with the knee completely bent if that's more comfortable. The hands could rest on the ground, the body, or stay on the leg as you circle. And again, take your time here and really tune in. What do you notice? What do you feel? In both directions, see what changes when you change direction, if anything. And then take your foot, relax it completely. Give the leg a shake and let that ankle be floppy. And then bend your knee. Give it a little squeeze in toward the chest. And then again, we'll take the ankle across the opposite knee, and being mindful that there's not pain, tension, or twisting that's uncomfortable in that knee. And if that's the case, you may just come back in, do that leg in toward the chest or anything else that works better for you here. So again, a block under your right foot if you want a little bit more. Pressing away with the thigh might be helpful, or bringing your hands or using your belt to extend your arms to bring the hands behind the right thigh. And we'll take a few breaths here. As you breathe, notice what you feel in that left hip, which is where most people will feel some stretch here. You might feel something in the hamstrings as well, or lower back. As you breathe, notice, does the stretch stay the same when you're inhaling and exhaling? Does it change? Be curious. If you feel ready, you can slowly release your feet to the floor. And again, we'll stretch both legs out, or if you prefer, both knees stay bent. And again, take a moment to observe. What do you feel now from the hips down to the feet? Does one side feel different from the other? And it may, because we've worked the sides at different times. So notice that. You also notice if they feel more balanced or even from when you last checked in. Again, if there's pain present, please notice it, but don't dwell there. Notice the pain and then let your attention see what other sensations may be there more subtly. So let's take the right knee now and bring it back into the chest. And you're welcome to keep the left leg straight if that's comfortable for you. And if you prefer to bend it, that's okay as well. So hands can be over the shin or behind the knee. Behind the knee is a good option. If there's pressure that's painful when you pull the knee in toward the body. And then from here, a little squeeze in. We can actually take the right hand onto the knee and let that knee go out to the right side. Bring it towards the ground on the right side, and then bring it over, pass it into your left hand. Bring that knee across the center line a little bit so you feel some sensation in the hip. It shouldn't be painful. If it is, don't go quite as far. So out to the side, slightly across the center. Do a few more like that. Try to stay connected and tuned into what you feel. Not doing the movement mechanically, but noticing where you feel stretch. You get to a point where your body says, that's far enough. So notice what tells you that. Is it pain? Is it simple restriction? Is it fear? I might hurt myself. And let's come back to the center, give one more little squeeze in, and then bring that foot to the floor and we'll switch sides. So left knee, come in, right leg is either bent or stretched out straight on the ground. Try to keep that leg active. So we're not just flopping it with the thighs drawn up, heel down, toes up. And then we'll pass the left knee side to side out into the left hand, cross the midline into the right hand. Side to side a few times. Don't worry about how you're breathing, but do keep breathing as you do this movement. Honoring your body, honoring the limits that you discover as you do these movements. There's absolutely no benefit in going past the point that is comfortable for you into the territory of pain and stretch. Some discomfort is normal and okay, and if there's arthritis in the joints, there will be pain. It's unavoidable, but you have to keep moving. And things tend to seize up. So let's come back to the center, give a little squeeze, and then release that foot to the floor, and we'll bring both knees in toward the chest. And from there, hugging the knees in, we'll stretch the legs toward the ceiling. The arms here could come out to the sides, any height. So it could be right out to the sides, anywhere between there and straight overhead. So we'll bring the knees to the chest, exhaling as you squeeze in, inhaling as you extend out. And then as your knees come back to your chest, you can release your feet to the floor. And we'll work with a pose, sometimes called butterfly pose, where the knees open and close. In Sanskrit, it's Supta Baddha Konasana. So here, start by squeezing your knees and your ankles together. Squeeze your legs together till you feel your inner thighs contract and begin to work. And you might even feel a little bit of shaking as you hold the legs tightly together. And then slowly start to open the knees towards either side, letting the soles of the feet maybe come to touch each other. And then slowly bring the knees back together. Imagine you're trying to squeeze a beach ball between your knees as they come together. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Notice the sensations of squeezing and then of opening and releasing. Open the knees until your body says that's enough, one way or the other. Notice how you know, and then bring the knees back together. Squeeze it. So you can keep moving like this if you like. And for those of you who may feel comfortable to stay in this pose, you are welcome to stay. And you might find that using some blocks, or it could be a couple of blankets on either side or cushions to support the knees. So I have some blocks here, and I'm going to, my knees come apart and rest on the blocks. And you can do the same with blocks, without blocks, or keep moving if that's a better option for you. So if there's a lot of stiffness, moving is sometimes the best option to just kind of create a little bit more looseness in the joints, more lubrication. So we'll take a few more breaths here. And notice the sensation of, if there's any sensation of stretch. And in your mind, give that a number between 1 and 10. Is it 1, almost no stretch? Is it a 10, tons of stretch? If it's a 10, I would say back off a little bit. Bring your blocks or blankets or cushions under your knees and get the support. And maybe if it's a 1, you might move your props a little further towards your knees and let the knees come a little further apart. And maybe connect with a 2 or a 3 in terms of sensation. So there's no right or wrong here. It's what's tolerable and comfortable for you. But really tuning in and noticing. Can I evaluate where I'm at, or am I someone who just goes right to the edge and stays there? Or maybe you're someone who really doesn't want to feel much, and so you're always keeping it really contained. So notice that tendency and pattern in yourself. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's just noticing, does that work for me? When you're ready, bring your knees back together. And you can put your props aside for now, and maybe hug the knees into the chest for a moment. A little rocking side to side, perhaps, if that feels good, to massage the back. So coming back to the center now, bring the feet to the floor. And here's where you might want to use your belt. And if you don't have a belt, that's fine. You can use your hands on your leg to support the leg. But what we're going to do, if you have a belt, is you can take the belt and bring it around the bottom of your right foot and stretch the leg toward the ceiling and have your arms straight, holding the belt on either side, one side of the belt in each hand. So if you don't have a belt, you can simply hold onto the leg wherever it's comfortable. Keep as much bend in your knee as you need to. So this first one, once you find that position, try backing off a little bit. So you might slide the hands on the belt, let the belt move away from you a bit, or let the leg move away from you a bit. And find a place where there's almost no stretch. So if you're using a belt, the foot will be a little bit flexed with the pressure of the belt, so that might create a bit of stretch in the calf or hamstrings. You want to find the least amount of stretch here by backing off a bit. And then we're going to make circles. So if you don't have a belt, just taking the leg, circling using your hands. And if you have the belt, just move the leg with So the idea here is when the leg is further away, there's no stretch or very little. As you circle around and the leg comes towards you, there's a moment where the stretch starts to happen. And as you keep drawing the leg towards you, there's a moment where it's enough. And that's when you start to circle around. And then as you back off the other side, there's a moment when the stretch goes away a bit. You circle around and find that place where the stretch turns on. Keep going until it feels like enough. Maybe it goes from a 0 to a 5 or a 6 as you circle around. You can evaluate what amount of stretch or sensation feels right for you. Maybe you just want to connect with a 2 or a 3 today. And maybe you feel like, I want to feel that 9 stretch, that 8, 9, that really juicy stretch today. As long as it's not creating pain or tension, you get to decide what's right for you. Circle the other way now and notice what changes as you approach the stretch from the other side and as you leave the stretch on the opposite side. If you find your leg needs a break at any time, just bring it in, give it a hug, or bring it to the floor. That's fine. It depends on how much you're used to stretching. I stretch these muscles a lot. You might not be in that same situation. So from here, again, holding the belt close to the foot, we're going to bring the knee down toward the chest, and you can, if you get towards your chest and there's a bit more movement you can do, you can move it to the side. Try to keep the sole of your foot pointing toward the ceiling. And then you're going to resist a little with the belt as you press the foot back up toward the ceiling. So drawing down toward your body, toward the floor on the right side, pressing up toward the ceiling. More like that. And then for the last one here, we'll take both sides of the belt into the right hand. You can hold the end of the belt with your other hand if you like. And we'll start to move the leg a little bit out to the right. So out to the right, maybe a few inches, and then back to center. You might go a little further, and back to center. So again, finding the stretch as you go to the side that feels just right for you. So maybe a little further. And today we'll just do this one dynamically, so we won't stay. If you're practicing at home and you want to come into this pose and stay for a little bit, you certainly could. But for now, just keep moving. Maybe once more. Going as far to the side as feels comfortable for you. For some of you, that might be more toward the ground. For some of you, it may only be a few inches to the side. And then when you come back to the center, let's release the belt, bring the knee in, give a little squeeze, and to the floor. Again, you might take a moment to notice one side versus the other. Legs straight or bent, doesn't matter. And if you feel like your hips have come off kilter a little bit with moving the leg out to the side, you might lift them up, bring them back down, and find balance and equilibrium between the two sides. And then we'll move into the same series on the other side. So you can take your belt again and bring the bottom of the belt right around the bottom of your foot. If your legs tend to be quite tight, if you feel a lot of stretch here, you might actually take that belt more to the arch or even the heel so that the foot is less flexed and it's a little bit more lifted. That will create less stretch at the back of the leg. So arms straight, reaching towards the foot. Again, just holding the leg wherever is comfortable if you don't have a belt handy. That will work as well. And then back off a little bit. So slide the hands down, move the leg away. Find where there's almost no sensation. The least amount of sensation possible here. And as you hold the belt, make sure you're not gripping tightly and creating tension in your jaw, neck, and shoulders, which is where it will go from your hands if you're doing a death grip, if your knuckles are white on your belt. You can wrap your hands around to make it easier. So when you've found that place where there's almost no stretch, we'll start to circle. Doesn't matter which direction. Move leg towards your body, until you feel like, oh, there's enough stretch. Across the top, down the other side. You can imagine this as a circle or even as a square if you like. So where does the stretch turn on? Where does the stretch turn off? How do you know when enough is enough? What do you hear from your body to say, don't go any further, this is good here? You listen and be a good friend to your body. Tune into those sensations without judgment, without trying to change anything. Eventually, switch directions, go the other way. Notice what changes, what's present as you circle a leg in the other direction. Just a reminder, if it starts to feel at all overwhelming or there's too much sensation or just too much, you might just pause, bring the knee back into the chest or foot to the floor. Let your attention go elsewhere for a moment. And then back to the center here. We'll take the sole of the foot still pointing at the ceiling and bring the knee down towards the side of the chest. Use a little resistance. Press into the belt as you press the leg up toward the ceiling. Resist a little as you draw down, knee toward the side of the chest or into the chest, and straight back up. A couple more here. Make sure you're breathing. Don't worry about how you're breathing, but it's quite common to hold the breath when we're focusing and concentrating. If that's the case, notice that, let the breath come back. And then we'll take both sides of the belt into the left hand. Again, you could hold the end of the belt with your right hand if you like. And we'll start to slowly go to the side. So first just finding that mild 1, 2, 3 kind of stretch, and then you're moving towards 3, 4, 5 kind of stretch. And then checking in with your body. How much stretch does it actually want today? Does it want to go, more over the hump of 5 to 6, 7, maybe 8? And the test is, can I stay relaxed and calm as I move towards those more intense stretches? So if you get towards a 7 or an 8 and your body starts tensing up and trying to protect you from potential injury, you're creating a counterproductive situation. You don't need more tension in the body to soften and release that tension. Mindful stretching. Eventually bringing the leg back to the center. Again, if you want to pause and stay there on this side, you're welcome to do that. But for now, we're going to move on. You can release the belt, bring the knee into the chest. Take a couple of breaths there. And then when you're ready, let the foot come to the floor. And again, if you feel like the hips are a bit off kilter, you might lift them up and draw them back down until you feel like there's more balance and symmetry in the lower back and hips. Next pose we'll work with is bridge pose. And in bridge pose, the feet are underneath the knees if possible. So having the feet underneath the knees means a fair bit of flexion at the knees. So for some of you, you might take the feet a little bit away from the body so that they're further ahead of your knees and there's a bigger angle at your knee joint, and that may be more comfortable for you. So feet about hip distance apart, finding that distance from the body that feels good for your knees. The arms can rest on the ground. Palms facing the ceiling if that's comfortable for your shoulders. And then from here, I'm going to press down into the feet and start to slowly lift the spine off the ground. And you can take as many breaths as you like to slowly lift the hips up. When you come to the top of that position where it feels like that's as high as is comfortable for you, you can pause there for a breath and then take a few breaths to slowly lower down. When you get to the bottom, you can take a few breaths, let the body settle, and then lift up again. So we'll do this a few times. Move at your own pace. Checking with your neck as you lift, especially if you've tucked a blanket or a pillow under your head for lying down. It may be now that it's pushing the neck a little too far forward, in which case you may want to remove that prop. You know, your bridge might be just a little bridge, just lifting an inch or two, and it might be a much bigger bridge, lifting hips a little higher. So there's no right or wrong here. Just simply tuning into what feels right for your body. See if you can feel the articulation of the vertebrae as you lift and lower. You feel as the spine comes away from the ground and then as it connects again. Next time you come down, stay for a few breaths there. And let's pause, tune in, and notice what's present in your body. What are you most aware of right now in terms of sensation? And again, if that is pain, that's fine. If that's the most urgent sensation that's taking your attention, notice it, acknowledge it, give it its space, and then tune into what else is present. So pain tends to take over our whole attention. Notice, is there anything else going on in your body? Can you notice sensations that are neutral or even pleasant? And then from here, we're going to move into a gentle twist. So we haven't really done much for the upper body, so maybe we'll add in a little bit of a twist for the upper body as well. So you can either, if you like, leave the arms on the floor. That would be a more simple twist. If you want to add a little bit more for the upper body, you can take the hands and bring them to your opposite elbows. And as you let the knees go one way, you could release the head and the elbows the other way. So any amount, it could be a few inches to the sides as I'm demonstrating now, a gentle mild twist, or you could go a little deeper, taking the knees toward the ground, taking the elbows toward the ground. It may be that neither actually reaches the ground, and that's fine. Moving in a way that's comfortable for you, you can either move and breathe freely, or if you want to coordinate your breathing, exhale as you go to either side, and inhale as you come to the center. A few more at your own pace. And then as you come back to the center, we're going to bring the knees into the chest, and you can repeat either movement that we've already done here. So we started the class with a simple movement of knees going in and out, and it could be hands on the knees, or if it's more comfortable, hands behind the knees. Or you could stretch the legs and the arms away from each other and bring them back into the chest. Or a combination of both. So really just looking to realign the legs, the hips, the spine, after lots of asymmetrical movements here lying down. When you feel complete with that movement and you're ready to switch positions, we're going to come to a seated position. You can release your feet to the floor, and the kindest way to come to sit up, maybe to roll onto your side. Use your opposite hand on the floor and support yourself to come up to sitting. So when we come to sit, you might want to now take your blanket and you're going to take that folded blanket and bring it just underneath your sit bones, and then stretch your legs straight out in front of you. So the reason that we have the blanket, and it could be a cushion, small cushion, or a roll towel or something like that, the reason that we have that there is that for many people, just sitting straight on the floor tends to push the pelvis back, tip the pelvis back, and round the lower back. And what we're actually looking for here is a level pelvis. So we're trying to bring the pelvis so that if you imagine the pelvis is shaped like a bowl, which is what the word pelvis means, is bowl. If it were shaped like a bowl, you want to imagine that there's no water pouring out of the front or back of the bowl. The top of the bowl is level. And so sitting on the edge of your blanket and allowing your sit bones to kind of rock off the blanket a little bit will tilt the pelvis a bit more forward and bring it, maybe back more neutral. So this is not an exact kind of science. It may be tipped a little forward or back, but we're trying to find that neutral pelvis as much as possible. So here you might want to have your blocks and belt handy if you have them. And again, I'll show you what you can do if you don't have those props. So we're going to bring one knee in towards the body and let that knee come out to the side. So here's where you may want to support with a block, or it could be rolled blanket or a cushion or a towel or whatever might support that knee. If you don't need it, on this side, this is quite comfortable for me, so my knee rests on the ground. I don't feel much stretch there, so I'm not use the block. For you, you choose the option that works for you. So if you have a belt, you can take the belt around the bottom of your foot. And then again, you want to have the arms straight, reaching toward the foot with the belt. If you don't have a belt, you can bring the hands onto the leg and just place one hand on top of the other and same thing. The belt gives us a little bit more support actually. So once I've got my arms straight, the belt straight, and I can actually lean back and sit up nice and tall with a lot less effort than just sitting without that support. So what we're going to do here is very gradually and incrementally add a little bit more stretch. So you might feel some stretch here for sure, and for some of you, this might actually be enough, in which case you're just going to do the breathing with us. You're not going to go forward, okay? So otherwise, we're going to take a breath in, lift the chest, draw the shoulders back, hinge at your hip joints, bend your elbows, maybe come forward an inch. You can move your arms down on the belt at this point if you like, and repeat. So inhale, resist a little with the belt, lift the chest, exhale. If there's room to go forward, bend your elbows, let your body come a little forward, and again, if you want, you can put your hands down the belt. Inhale, you might have reached your maximum already, in which case just do the breathing, don't go any more forward. And if there's room to go forward on this breath, you'll exhale and go a little more forward. At some point you're going to, and you may have already reached this point, your body's going to say, that's enough, I don't want to go further. Further would be pain, further just isn't possible, or I'm afraid I might hurt myself if I go forward more. So when you get to that point where it feels like you're somewhere around a 5 stretch, maybe more, your body's saying that's enough, you can release the belt if you're holding it, bring your hands to the floor or to the leg if the floor is not accessible, and now allow your back to round, allow your head to come down, really relax your shoulders, and take a number of breaths here. Really tune into sensation, tune into what's present, tune into what is actually happening in your body right now. What do you notice in the leg? What do you notice in the lower back? What do you notice in the neck? What is present? When you're ready to come up, you can walk your hands back up on the floor or along the leg towards your body, sitting up nice and tall, and we'll stretch out the leg that was bent. Give both legs a little bit of a shake. And then we'll bend the other knee, so bringing it up. And another alternative I didn't suggest on the other side is if the knee doesn't want to bend out to the side, you could just move the leg a little bit away, and you'll still get some stretch in that inner thigh, but without compromising the knee at all. So again, other side, you can bring a block under the knee if you need it, or some other prop to hold the knee up. The higher this knee is up, the harder it will be to come forward. So recognize that. If the hip is tight, you're going to have a harder time going forward. That's okay. Just go forward as much as is possible for you and feel whatever is present when you get to that point. This isn't about, it's never about going as far as you can or making the perfect shape with your body. It's It's really about tuning in and feeling and noticing and honoring what's present for you. So again, arms straight, the belt is taut, the spine is long, and you're using a bit of leverage. So you're pulling a little bit back on the belt to lift and find that openness in the heart, levelness in the pelvis. Take a breath in, draw the shoulders back, lift the chest a little more, and hinge at your hips. Bend your elbows to come forward. Try not to lean with your head or lead with your head. And so the chest is coming forward. And then you might walk the hands down on the belt. Take another breath in. Exhale. If there's room to go forward, go forward. If not, stay where you are and just breathe with us. Inhale, extend the spine. Exhale again. If you can go forward, go. If not, just breathe. And when you reach that point where it feels like that's likely good enough for me here today, you can pause there. And then with an exhale, allow your hands to come to the leg or to the ground and let your body relax forward. You can allow the back to round now. Let the head come down. And breathe. When you're ready to come up, you'll walk the hands up the leg or towards the body on the floor to come upright. And you can take the leg that was bent, bring it in, stretch it out, and give both legs a shake, letting that go. We'll do one more pose here. Bringing both knees in toward the chest, and now the back has to round to accommodate the knees coming in. But as we let the knees come to the sides, the pelvis tends to tilt up right a little bit more. However, if the hips are tight and the knees stay upright, you're going to find that it's very difficult to lift the lower back into a more neutral position, and that's fine. So if you want to support with your blocks, cushions, blankets, whatever you've got, you can support the knees. And then bring your hands behind you. You might be on your fingertips or your fists here, especially if you're sitting on a bit of a blanket. And you're going to use your hands against the ground to lift your spine nice and tall. So as you lift your spine tall, that tilts the pelvis a little more forward, and it tends to engage some stretch into the inner thighs. And again, this may be enough for you. If your knees don't like this position, legs straight is, maybe a better option for you today. So this one's a little harder to go forward, but if you feel like you've got a little bit more room for stretch, you can bring your hands to your ankles. You can lift the spine tall, just as we did in the last one, breathing in, and then exhale. Could you maybe go a little forward? Again, try not to lean with the head or lead with the head, and keep the chest open. So breathe in, if there's anywhere to go, maybe a little forward. Breathe in, if there's anywhere to go. Exhale and move forward. If and when you reach that place where that's enough, and you might still be here with your hands behind you, enjoying this position without any strain, great, stay there. And if you've come forward and you want to relax here and let the body come forward, let the back round, let the head come down, you can do that. When you're ready, slowly come upright. Bring the knees back together. Give yourself a little hug. And then stretch the legs out and give them a little shake. Okay. Just for a little release for the hips, we'll come off that prop, whatever you're sitting on, just move that aside. And you can use your hands to support you from behind and take your feet maybe a little bit wider than your shoulders. And just rock the knees a little side to side. Check in how your hips feel. You might make movement a little smaller or a little bigger, depending on what feels good for you. Just a little movement for the hips. If you go too far to the side, you may start to kind of compromise that back shoulder. So if you're wanting to go a little further, you may take that back arm up as you go to one side and then the other side. So it could be just that little rocking or a little more side to side. When you feel ready to move on, we're going to do just a little bit of checking in with the body again before we end the class today. We just have a few minutes left together. So you can lie down if you like, or you can stay seated. You can come back onto your blanket or use a cushion if you prefer. We'll just take a couple of minutes to check in and reconnect with sensation in the body. So if you've come onto your back, just find a position where you're settled. If you've come to seated, take a moment to adjust and make sure you're comfortable. Having something under your hips is super helpful to, again, tilt the pelvis a little forward and keep you from rounding back, allowing you to be in more of an anatomically correct position for the spine. Close your eyes if you like. Take a moment to tune into what parts of your body are on the ground, whether you're sitting or lying down. Some part of your body is on the ground. Feel the pressure there. Feel what's present there. Could you allow your body to even sink down a little more into the earth there, to those points of contact? As you exhale, feel your body soften wherever there may be tension. And again, tune into what is the most obvious sensation in your body. Maybe it's the pressure of your body on the floor. Maybe there's some pain. Maybe there's some other sensation that's taking your attention or draws your attention. So notice what is present. What is most obvious in terms of sensation in your body. Again, if there's any kind of feeling of overwhelm or discomfort, you might just take your attention outside the body for a moment and bring it back when you're ready. And tune into what's more subtle. You notice that's not as obvious. And you might keep tuning into what's more and more subtle. And one thing that I've noticed happens is when I tune into what's subtle, it becomes more obvious. And then I have to go look for something else that's subtle. As you bring your attention to an area or to a sensation, it tends to grow. This is often why when we focus on our pain, it seems like the pain takes over. So what is subtle? What do you notice? And then maybe shift your attention if that becomes less subtle as you look at it. So as you continue to follow the sensations in your body, watching with non-judgmental, open awareness as much as possible, I'm going to share a chant with you today that's, the subject is about calming the monkey mind. It's one of the things that we are working towards when we focus on the body is that mindful presence of being in the now. Our bodies are always in the now. So the idea is that we can calm our busy minds through attention to the body. So you can just let go and listen now without any kind of focus in your body. Just let that go. Allow yourself to simply listen and take in the sounds and the meaning of the chant, bringing calm to the system. Avamana Avitrena vicharshani yakuta sapunatuma Purnantuma deva jana Purnantuma bodhiya Purnantu vishva ayavaha Jata veda avitravate avitrena punadima avamanya punantuma rajapatyam avitram Take a few more breaths here. Because you're practicing at home, if you want to stay now in a meditation or in Shavasana for a little bit longer, and that would help you to integrate the practice a little bit more deeply, then stay where you are. If you're ready to get on with your day, you might come back to a seated position if you come to lie down. And I always encourage you to take the theme off your mat and into your life. So maybe when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or you're feeling distracted or in pain, you might come back to this theme and notice your body, notice what's obvious, notice what's subtle. Let your attention come inward and come into the moment and just see what shifts and changes over time as you make that a practice in your life. Bring your hands together if you like. Namaste. Enjoy this beautiful day if you're here in this area, and if you're elsewhere, enjoy whatever the day has to bring for you. And I'll see you online next week. As always, if you have questions, feedback, comments, or anything you want to share with me, you can email me, and I'm going to turn off the recording and wish you all a fabulous day.